What's up, family? So we have to talk about this.
A verbal fight between President Donald Trump and Maryland's Democratic leaders is ramping up. But if Governor Wes Moore has his way, it will end with the president visiting Baltimore. WMER 2 News' Jeff Morgan joins us now in studio with the latest message from the governor.
Kelly, Governor Moore called out President Trump on his public safety policies and invited him to Baltimore to see firsthand improvements in the city. In a letter sent to the White House, he told Mr. Trump to pick a date next month and attend one of Baltimore's public safety walks. The invitation came after the governor had harsh words for the president at an event this morning at Pimlico Racetrack.
This is a community that does not look at Baltimore like a punchline, but looks at Baltimore as a source of inspiration. And so I do want to be very clear. If you are not willing to be part of the solution, keep our names out of your mouth. Specifically, Donald Trump, if you are not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth.
Moore and President have been at odds over public safety since last week when Trump announced he was deploying the National Guard to Washington, D.C. and said that Baltimore, along with other cities, are, quote, so far gone. Moore hit back, saying homicides in Maryland are down more than 20%, and Baltimore is seeing one of the lowest homicide rates in 50 years. Moore made the cable TV rounds, and the president noticed in an event at the Oval Office last Thursday. He called Moore that character and said, quote, he's not presidential timber. The White House has not commented on today's invitation. The last time President Trump was in Baltimore was September 2019 to speak at the Republican congressional retreat. Kelly?
All right. So you have to wonder why Democrats try to talk so tough on TV, at town halls, and on social media. A sitting governor, Wes Moore, is acting tough with a former president slash current president. But as soon as they meet Trump in person, they're all smiles. It's a performance. You have to bring people in to make the city safe because the governor, the mayor, and everyone else voted and based on identity politics haven't been able to do it. And what I mean by Wes Moore is acting tough, but then when he meets Donald Trump, he's all smiles. Don't take my word for it because I have the receipts. Check this out.
Mr. President, welcome back to Maryland, sir. Welcome back to Maryland. It's good to see you.
In person too.
Thank you, sir. Great to see you. Great to see you. And great to have you back here. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are very, very anxious to be able to work closely with you, and I know the Key Bridge is something that we're specifically. Sorry, it's going well. I mean, we spoke.
There you have it. So when you think about it, there's people that have been trying to visit Baltimore forever, and they fly into DC and they realize it's just a hop and skip and a jump away. But every single person, cops, security, people who live there, tell the same tale. Like, nah, that's not a go zone to go to Baltimore. They say 90+% of Baltimore is a no-go zone. Now, I don't know for sure, but that's the reputation. And you got this clown of a governor who was ranked the most disappointing governor in America sitting up here playing games. And look it up, because I'm being honest, I'm telling you. You can look it up as him being the most. You know what? We'll pull up the receipts. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. I got time. All right. The most disappointing governor in Baltimore, in America. Don't take my word for it. Do not take my word for it. I can just pull up the receipts. Now, Economist labels Wes Moore America's most disappointing governor. This was August 19, 2024. And look, Maryland is Maryland Governor Wes Moore, the nation's most disappointing governor. That's the provocative question raised in the new op, Charlie criticizing Moore's handling of state finances, crime, and accountability. Right? So I told you guys, you can't make this stuff up. So with that being said, this is the most disappointing governor American sitting up here playing games. And we're going to break this down because we're going to look past the podium, pounding and get to the truth, because we got to talk about the numbers they brag about versus the numbers that show people are not safe, because this is a story about a city's pride versus its reality and a governor who is making things worse. So this all kicked off with a familiar playbook. Donald Trump was talking about crime in DC and other cities, as you guys may know, and he singled out Baltimore, saying it was a place you don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. Now, and that's harsh phrasing so far gone, but for the people who live there or people who have been warned not to go there, you have to ask, is he wrong? And this isn't just a soundbite, it's about a long, painful decline. Baltimore once had a population close to 1 million people back in 1950. Today is hovering over 568,000, and almost 500,000 people packed up and left. So when a leader says a city is so far gone, he's pointing to decades of problems that have been driving people and businesses out. And he's creating a narrative that the current leadership isn't fixing the root causes. And it's a direct challenge suggesting the problems are too deep for press conferences and require real change. And it was this blunt assessment that set the stage for Governor Moore's angry response, right? So, how did Governor Moore respond? He held his press conference, pounded the podium, and told Trump to keep our name out your mouth. You guys just seen the clip. Then he invited him on a public safety walk to see the progress for himself. But while he's acting tough for the cameras, let's look at his record, because this is the same governor facing down a massive state budget deficit. And what's his solution? He just hit Maryland with one of the biggest tax increases in state history. And they spent all COVID money from the Biden administration, ran it to the ground, and now they're trying to run out the very people that pay the majority of taxes by raising them even higher. So when he puffs out his chest and talks about leadership, and you have to ask, how many people in these so-called undeserved communities actually stand with the governor? With this governor? How many of y'all stand with these leaders who continue to use you as a punching bag? And instead of throwing everything they have at making the community safer, they just move the goalposts. So, how did Trump reply to the invitation? He refused and hit back on social media, calling Moore's invitation nasty and provocative. Let's pull that up. So, this is Trump's response. Governor Wes Moore of Maryland has asked in a rather nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. And I assume he is talking about out of control, crime ridden Baltimore. As president, I would much prefer that he clean up this crime disaster before I go there for a walk. You can't knock him. It's the truth. Westmore's record on a crime is a very bad one unless he fudges his figures on crime like many other blue states are doing. Basically, they juice the numbers and make it like it's all good and fine and dandy. But when you actually walk, it's not safe. The same way they did in Washington, D.C. when it came to the mayor in Washington. But if let's continue. But if Westmore needs help, like Gavin Newsom did in L.A., I will send in the troops, which is being done in nearby D.C., and quickly clean up the crime. So there's the solution, right? There's the solution. After only 1 week, there is no crime and no murder in DC. When it is like that in Baltimore, I will proudly walk the streets with the failing because of crime governor of Maryland. P.S. Baltimore is ranked the 4th worst city in the nation in crime and murder. Stop talking and get to work, Wes. I'll then see you on the streets. Also, I gave Westmore a lot of money to fix his demolished bridge. I will now have to rethink that decision. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. And this is what happens with these blue states. You have to wonder, what are they doing with this money and where is it going? And they may make it look on paper phenomenal and well, like, oh, we did the money, we did this with the money, with this with the money. But we all know that there may be back deals behind the scenes we don't know. They may put on paper that monies is going else somewhere, but in reality is, where's the actual receipts to prove that the money was going elsewhere besides their word in this paper that they have juiced up, just like they're juicing up the crimes. So this is where it gets real, because Trump accused Muir of fudging the numbers on crime like many other blue states are doing. And you got to wonder, the governor and mayor love to say crime is down, and they'll tell you that in 2024, homicides fell by 23%, but they're just rejuking the stats. Of course, crime is down when there's nobody left. The population has been dropping for decades. So I'm not interested in seeing reductions. I'm interested in seeing crime stop completely. And everybody in the United States of America should at the very minimum expect and deserve to be in safer communities. But I almost don't even feel bad for the people in these communities because these are the people that y'all voted for in Baltimore. I got to hold Baltimore accountable. But before I continue to go on, because I'm going to talk about the hard reality and what's actually happening in Baltimore, I want you guys to check this out next. This is the Baltimore mayor now. We talked about Governor Wes Moore.
Joined now by Mayor Brandon Scott, whose office responded tonight to the governor's letter and invitation to the president. Mayor Scott, we appreciate your time tonight. Among those commitments are additional resources for the ATF, the DEA, the FBI, the field offices in Baltimore. You're calling on President Trump to fulfill these. Now, two things that were not mentioned here: National Guard and additional funding for Baltimore police. Why is that?
Well, listen, first and foremost, we know that the National Guard is not the way. Now, that's not what those soldiers signed up to do. And we've proven here in Baltimore, as they did in D.C. and cities around the country, that we can have historic reductions of gun violence without the military. And we don't need that. But we have done this in part with our relationships with our local FBI, DEA, and ATF counterparts. And what we would allowing those folks to have more agents, Rick, would be allowing them to work alongside BPD. And that's why it's not additional resources of BPD, because this is a partnership. They are in partnership working each and every day with us. When I announced the expansion of the group violence reduction strategy last month, they were standing right there with us and allowing them to have more agents dedicated to going after gun traffickers, going after those bringing drugs into our community, going after those who are actually harming people, building cases, removing those organizations alongside the women and men of BPD. Is a part of what we've done to make the city a safer place. And whether the president comes to Baltimore or not, we want to see those resources, and we also want to see those public safety grants.
Who is you to tell somebody what you want to see when you can't even work with what you got? The audacity of you, sir. Let's continue.
They cut reinstated. We want to see him say, like many mayors have said, that
Ignorance.
there needs to be an outright ban on ghost guns and these Glock switches that are terrorizing communities across the country.
That's something we have talked about for years here. And I mean, Mayor, we've reported on Baltimore's historic decline in homicides in general. I mean, this is progress.
Yeah. So if the official narrative is a fantasy, what's the hard reality? Because Mayor Brandon Scott says that they don't need the National Guard, they just need more federal resources, which means more money. But that's their solution for everything. Beg Trump for money, but don't let him determine what happens to make the city safer. Giving more money to Baltimore is like throwing it in a black hole and giving it to the criminals themselves. Just look at the schools. It's one of the highest funded school system in the country, spending over $18,000 per student, and yet the schools are in absolute collapse. And the mayor's claims that the National Guard isn't trained for urban environments is reckless talk because the U.S. military has been operating in complex urban environments for decades. It's an excuse. And thank God Trump actually came into D.C. And it's been 10 days since they took over, and there have been no murders, over 900 arrests, and over 100 guns taken off the streets. So why would you argue with those results if you want what's best for your community? So this is the whole thing between Wes Moore and Donald Trump boils down to a fundamental conflict. It's about pride versus results. On one side, you have the leadership of Governor Moore, Mayor Scott. It's a leadership of deflection. They're tired of posturing and using a racist thing to justify. Look. I'm gonna put it like this. When I'm gonna look at it, like on one side, you got a leadership of Governor Moore and Mayor Scott, and it's a leadership of deflection, like I said, right? But then they're tired of posturing and using a racist thing to justify why they will never solve the problem, and then they ask for more money without being held accountable for how the last batch was mismanaged of monies. So it's mind blowing to me because on the other side you have Trump's approach. It's messy and aggressive, but it's about accountability. And I'm sure Trump had no problem working with the Democrats that have common sense, but he's not wasting time with radicalism and insanity. He looks at the city like Oakland and asks if he asks if it's too far gone. And if you need to wipe the whole state clean and start over because you can't save it, The people in communities overrun by drugs, homelessness, and gangs know that the criminals can be rugshot with nothing stopping them. So I don't care who gets the credit as long as the community is fixed and saved. Who cares? It's lives being saved and public safety at risk, right? Because Governor Moore and Mayor Scott, we know they're deflecting because they're trying to take the race tactic by saying, "Oh, Donald Trump is coming after black communities and specifically black people in particular, which is in these undermined communities." But these are the most communities that end up wiping each other out and are the most underserved and the most ones that are in duress. Happens to be more black people in these violent criminal violent criminal communities. So, and they're basically in survival mode. So, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Do you think Trump should actually come to Baltimore and see it firsthand, or should he stay out? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on all the post notifications. I believe Trump should go there. I know he gonna go there, and he should go there because if they don't want him to go there, the biggest question is if you want him to come there, as the governor Wes Moore is saying, but then the mayor of Baltimore is saying, in this case, Brandon Scott saying he don't need to come here, then why isn't y'all on the same page together? And why is the mayor in such dissatisfaction of not allowing Trump to come? That's the real question. But when Governor Westmore told Donald Trump to keep your name out my mouth, he was just trying to sound strong. But what did it really accomplish? It put a spotlight on the very problems he seems to be ignoring. And it's a classic Democratic move, talk tough on camera, but what happens when the cameras are off? And Trump's criticism is blunt, but it reflects a painful reality that you can't hide with his speech. The hard work isn't about winning a press conference. It's about creating a tax environment where businesses want to come, not flee. And it's about reversing the exodus people who have lost faith, and it's about making people feel safe, sir. So this whole episode leaves us with a simple choice. Do we want leaders who manage the city's decline and brag about the statistics on the way down? Or do we want leaders who will call out the failure and demand a real plan to fix it no matter how uncomfortable it is? The answer to that will decide Baltimore's future. Catch you in the next one. Hope you got some value from this video. Get this video a big thumbs up. Love you guys. Peace.